Oh boy, here we go. Getting ready to drop the motor in. This is the pinnacle of uncharted territory for me, so this will be fun. Got my motor mounts installed. Those are beyond straightforward, nice and easy. Got the ground strap sitting there ready to go. Hopefully got this thing bolted in correctly. Had to make a little steel bracket there to balance the load out a little bit, but I think we're good to go. So putting the motor in feels very premature to me, honestly. I think in my head I had this happening much later on in the build, but I'm kind of there, you know. I'm aside from waiting for a few steering components, I'm kind of stopped otherwise. So may as well free up a little space in my shop and drop this motor in. So here we go. You'll notice that a few times while I'm doing the motor installation, I go and grab for some bungee cords and things like tie-down straps. I use these as that extra set of hands. The bungee cord actually was a really kind of good find. That allowed me to put the transmission portion under just a little tension there to the left. The motor kind of wanted to swing to the right, and the bungee allowed just enough tension to pull it to the left, and at the same time allowed me to continue on in and down with the motor. The cord just kind of stretched, and once I got it far enough in, I was able to disconnect the bungee cord. But and the same with the tie-down straps. You'll see that I kind of use those to direct it in the transmission, in and through the transmission tunnel. So both of those things allow me to do this installation solo, and it worked out great. Work smarter, not harder, right? Is that what they say? I seem to forget about that. Could not get that other motor mount to line up and realized that it was sitting here cocked a little bit, and I know that people who put motors in before probably saw that. But I just needed, there's not much tension on this. I just needed to use one of my extra hands here and pull up a little bit on this side of the motor mount, the right side motor mount. And I believe that's now going to allow me to drop that in place. So I'm getting ready to try this now. Well, that, my friends, is a motor installed. It went in beautifully, actually. No issues at all. I was expecting all sorts of issues, but everything lined up. You saw me kind of struggling with that, getting that last engine mount in place. Whole motor is sitting a little cocked in there. So once I relieved just a little bit of tension on the other side with the strap, the other side with a little bit of monkeying around fell right into place. Used a couple extra straps, one in the back to hold the transmission in while I kind of walked it into place, a bungee cord to keep the engine from swinging while I was bringing it in. But honestly, I don't know if a couple extra hands actually would have made any difference. Frankly, I think this was probably, at least for me, the right way to do it. The hardest part was fixing my damn engine hoist. Had a weird hydraulic clog or something. It wasn't air. Ended up draining the fluid and finding little bits and pieces of stuff and refilled it and got it up and running. But now I'm going to pull the hoist away and take a long, hard look at a motor inside my car. So here we go. Well, I've got a fair amount of time put into this, trying to get this drive shaft in. I was convinced I had the wrong one and it just wasn't going in. I can't get enough clearance, and then spent a little time on the forum last night, and they gave me some great suggestions. So one of them was to loosen the motor mounts, pull the transmission higher into the left, and that might give me enough clearance. So here's the first go around. We'll see see how we go here. But so far I have not had any success in getting this in. I guess a lot of people have similar issues. That is not even close. Okay. Thank you, forum. Somebody had mentioned using a crowbar to get the to get the transmission all the way over to one side. So if you're installing, well, in this case I have a T5 with independent rear suspension, you'll find that drive shaft, there just doesn't appear to be enough clearance. But all it takes is, in this case, drop the transmission so it's sitting on the cross member. No transmission mount in there, just sitting right on the cross member. Using a crowbar, I was able to slide it with the motor mounts loosened, slide it over, and it went in. And that's why we have the forum. If I had looked at this before I started this installation, I probably would have knocked off an hour of swearing and chewed up fingers. So I am very happy right now. Thank you for it. That is the shortest, cutest little drive shaft. Yeah, welcome to the shop on a very chilly, cold Maine morning here. So I got the engine in, transmission in place, drive shaft finally in place, and now I'm going to do drive shaft, a hoop, protective hoop over the back of the drive shaft. You can really see why something like that is needed in a car like this. You're legitimately sitting right next to that sharp or that spinning piece of steel. If anything were to let go, it would very easily find its way into your hip or your ribs. And there's only a little bit of steel and a little bit of aluminum. So I'm going to make my own bracket. There are some ones that you can purchase. I wasn't a big fan of some of the ones I saw. Actually, there are a couple that are fine. But truth is, I've got some steel or kind of laying around the shop where I can make it myself. And I also don't want to bite into at all any ground clearance issues. I saw some that actually kind of extended down a little bit and want to do that. So, you know, ironically, I actually have this piece of steel that I, 1/4 inch steel that I bent years ago for another project. I never ended up using it, and it's perfect. Size is perfect. I got real lucky on that one. So the first step is I gotta bend some plate here to match the angle of the tabs. I'll work up some of these, then I'll kind of show you where they're gonna go in the car, and like I did with the roll cage, I'll do a little you know, manipulation of some metal, some welding, and we'll piece this thing together. But first is to put an angle on these two tabs. To make life a little easier on the bend, I don't know if you can see this, but I put a couple of cuts. I use my bandsaw just to start the bend, and then I'll bend it, and then I'll weld those cuts closed. But that just helps control how the steel bends. Otherwise, this is pretty thick, and I don't have a brake, so nothing at least that would bend this. So once you make these cuts, it actually bends pretty easy, as you'll see here. Just kind of doing it to eye. I'll adjust it and then weld those cuts closed. Well, here's the drive shaft loop I just put together. I'll show you how it welds, how it goes in the car shortly here, but pretty simple piece to make. It sits in like this, bolt goes through here, and the whole thing can be assembled from underneath. And I'll go into that now. I just finished making and installing that drive shaft hoop, little hoop that goes around the drive shafts. Should something go terribly wrong and something lets go, it's the thing that'll probably save your right leg if you're the driver. But well, I'll take a look at it here. It was almost an impossible thing to film installing, but you get the picture. It's not an overly complicated thing. So let's walk over here. So I went about my installation maybe a little different. you know, from the top, I guess it looks pretty straightforward. You know, you're not going to be able to see much from here anyway. So I'll show you what it looks like underneath. But the whole thing can install from underneath. I wanted to make sure I didn't have to dismantle anything up top. Although I guess if I ever have to dismantle this, I guess taking the tunnel cover here off is the least of my worries. Let me see if I can kind of get underneath here and give you a better view of how it bolts in, what it looks like. There we go. Yes, I guess that's the best image of it right there. So you can see the two bolts there. They're kind of cockeyed out. They match the profile or the angle of those brackets. The brackets that are welded onto the frame. It's where the seatbelt bolts in. So I just made that frame there, and you can see that should be plenty robust enough. I wanted to keep it fairly tight. I can adjust that if I need to, because I still think I might need to shim the transmission. I'm not sure there, but I have some movement. Those holes give me a little bit of space. But yeah, nice little project to check off my list. So I installed a freaking motor in my car. Talk about a milestone. You know, this is one of those points that you think of in a build and kind of imagine doing and kind of hoping it goes right, and it went great, went smoothly, really exactly as I had hoped it would go. I also finished up in this video the drive shaft loop, the protective loop there. So with that said, I think I'm going to wrap things up. I'll do a quick sweep around the engine bay, and you can see I just started installing the radiator, so that will be coming up next. So here it is in all its glory. Ford Racing Boss 302 from Mike Forte. Thanks, Mike. Big help. You're a huge help. I'm sure I'll be reaching out to you a few more times before this is over. So until next week, have a good one. Thanks.